where they'll have other affiliates or other team members in a sort of decentralized way that will perform and do the ransomware operation, but still work with maybe initial access brokers or wholesale access markets where someone else has broken into an environment and then, hey, now a Lockbit affiliate or any others of ransomware will encrypt the file system, lock up the systems, and do the real damage. They are kind of wild, especially in a lot of the ransomware notes you might can see. They are oftentimes trying to recruit or ask for other folks helping out on that mission, because it will make money, as evil and as wrong as it is. So I'm not sure if folks are familiar with it, but you could see there is a darknet mail exchange, oftentimes literally called DNMX, and you could put together a online account, much like Gmail, like if you're used to working with Google Mail, but they also have their Onion link. And there's nothing wrong with you being able to send back and forth emails either through the darknet addresses, like an Onion URL, or even ClearNet sites, like send something to a Gmail address.
Yeah, it's something to be aware of, right? People forget that when you go on the dark web, you could, like you said earlier, you could see stuff that could get you into trouble.
And thank you for being willing to, explore this and take a look and let me showcase in the video here, because I know it's pretty tedious and annoying to have to clean some of that stuff up. But I think it does show, hey, for anyone that wants to explore, that would like to go tinker and go see what's out there, it does take a certain fortitude. You got to be able to stomach it here and there.
Yeah. Hey everyone, it's David Bombal back with the amazing John Hammond. John, great to have you back.
Hey there, David. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
John, has been way too long, man. It's like, 2-3 years ago, something like that, where we last spoke and you told us about the dark web. Really looking forward to this, because I'm hoping that you'll give us an updated view into the dark web and tell us, some interesting things, perhaps with, dodgy people making money, perhaps, or, just interesting things in the dark web. So I'll keep quiet and hand it to you, man.
Well, goodness. Thank you so much. I think you're right. Goodness, it has been a long time, but looking forward to it. I think what I have for you is a little bit of a show. Maybe, I try to do the show and tell. I like to have a demo in the mix, but please don't hesitate. Anything that you're interested in, we can dive more into, go off the cuff, off script as we need to. But I tried to do my homework because it has been a while. I wanted to review, look, what content have you put out regarding the dark web? I know you got together with other folks and you've been doing the same sort of usual stuff to at least get into the environment. I know you spent time with Steven Sims. I know, hey, we've got together and you even showcased yourself getting a virtual machine set up to run whonix or to run Tails or things that will have the Tor browser oftentimes pre-installed. And that's super easy and convenient to be able to access those Tor hidden services or the .onion URLs. You really kind of have to know where you want to go in order to get there. Now that they're on those v3 onion URLs that are very, very long in text, but hey, you have to have the address and you'll need Tor or some other way to get there with support for that top level domain. Anyway, I think it would be fun to go on a little bit of a safari ride, a little bit of that cybercrime and the dark web. But I think I will start with maybe the appetizer or the first course in our course meal here, the sites that didn't make it. The threat actors and the hackers, and the adversaries and cyber criminals that end up finding their infrastructure, their servers, websites, and everything that they have for their online presence seized and taken down by law enforcement. You might have seen this in the news. You might have seen a good many of these, and they pop up here and then every now and again when we do get to see, good go against bad and actually make an impact and take down or at least disrupt some of the operations for forums where a lot of illicit folks get together to chat about illicit things, marketplaces where a lot of those illegal things are sold, or any of the sort of groups, hey, ransom leak sites or blogs where data breach data is just dumped out to the open internet. This is one example, breach forums. Breach forums has gone in and out. They've had a couple variations and sort of zombie-like prop back up to fall back down, et cetera, et cetera. I think a lot of derivatives now are even in Telegram. But have you heard of breach forums before? Have you seen this one around?
I haven't seen this one, no.
I'll try to share a couple other, pictures and images of these big law enforcement banners, because I think it is, a certain reminder of things can go wrong or right, depending on how you look at it. And maybe put a reminder in our minds that, look, don't do cybercrime. A lot of that illegal dark web stuff isn't particularly what anyone should aspire to do. You'll end up in bad places.
And I must say this, John, just to take you on a tangent for 1 second. I was really happy to see that on your channel recently, and just for everyone who's watching, please go and sub to John's channel. At the time of this recording, he's almost at 2 million subs. John, it's fantastic to see how your channel has grown. But I want to highlight, you've also done a bit of like scam baiting or scammer baiting videos on your channel as well, right?
Trying to, here and there. And that is another interesting balancing act, right?
Yeah. I'm glad to see it. It's great to see good people like you with a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience going after bad guys and, bringing your cyber knowledge to that fight as well. So sorry about the tangent. It was just great to see that.
No, thank you. I'm really glad that you mentioned it because I think it's a whole matter of mission and intent and hopefully the right reasons behind, what happens online on the internet and all. It's the Wild West, but whenever we can make things good or make things better, I think that's a good thing to do.
And John, before we go any further, actually, I need to interrupt you once more. You have recently launched your own website, right? And what you're showing us here is a snippet of a course that you've created on the dark web. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you so much. And I don't by any means want to turn into some commercial advertisement, but it is something I'm very, very proud of and really pleased and hope I can share with you all. We've been spinning up what I call just hacking training. A little shorthand JHT, and that is, for lack of a better word, our schoolhouse, curriculum, courses, training, academy, however you really want to bucket it. But no, there are a ton of different exercises with what we call upskill challenges, things that are oftentimes free or even name your price to be able to play, interact with anything that we might offer. Hack-along sort of exercises that'll include a video demonstration and walkthrough with some material, and then the usual full-blown courses. So just as you were alluding to, we had just shared a dark web and cybercrime investigations course, and I'm pretty excited about it. Honestly, it goes much more into the history and the culture and the ecosystem and, dare I say, the industry of cybercrime and the dark web. So it's a little bit more kind of understanding what plays a part, where, when, how, and especially why. And that hopefully getting a little bit more insight into how you can be on the lookout for these things and tools that you could very well build to manage, track, and keep tabs on what threat actors and cyber criminals are up to.
I must say, for everyone who's watching, if you don't know John, well, you should if you're in cybersecurity. John is one of the most well-known and well-respected people in cybersecurity. John, a lot of respect for you. So I would highly recommend any course that John creates. Please go and check out his website if you're interested. But John, sorry to take you on a tangent again. Really looking forward to what you're going to show us now.
All right. Well, I'll keep us cruising, but probably bring us on the downslope of just that introductory teaser. Websites, domains, infrastructure that can be disrupted and taken down by law enforcement. Another good example is Genesis Market. Genesis.market even had a ClearNet domain. One thing they were all about was sharing sessions or sort of fingerprinted cookies or a lot of the online identities that would be tied to you as a user as you browse and go to different websites. Like you log into Amazon, you log into Google, you log into Facebook. But Genesis Market would keep track of bots or collections of those to be able to just sell and distribute and give that access out and about. Once again, taken down by law enforcement. And this is one that I think I've talked about and a lot of folks have showcased previously. I think this was always a neat example to help raise education and awareness. But now, after time has passed, it's one solid example for, again, the FBI or law enforcement takedown work.
That what we're seeing on screen, right? Is that a screenshot or are you actually on the dark web visiting that website? Maybe
this is a fun Easter egg. The Brave browser, just as well, kind of a cute little shortcut, that also has support for Tor or accessing the .onion URLs. So I do like to use that when I'm quick and easy in a pinch, maybe in a VM that just has Brave installed and not quite Tor. But I am currently just on their ClearNet site, genesis.market. We'll get into a couple more of the .onion URLs in just a second. But no, absolutely, that is the true real page for Genesis Market, breach forums, and others. So now let me shift gears just a second. And David, I might put a disclaimer here for you because now we're on to ransomware. And when we're looking at some of the ransomware leak sites where threat actors and cyber criminals will dump the data of their breached victims, these are, truth be told, victims. And they'll include all the information and when they will end up leaking all of the data, making that available for download. But they always post a note on their site when things are now going to be posted soon. It's up to you. I guess it's kind of your discretion whether you redact or blur or obscure. I tend to like to because I know, I don't know, maybe a certain, human courtesy.
Yeah, and I mean, YouTube doesn't like that. So, I mean, just for everyone who's watching, like a lot of these videos, I have to redact a lot of stuff because I still want a channel, John, and we still want to be on the right side of the law, right?
Yeah, if I can go on a short tangent, 30-second adventure, I've always wondered, like, man, could I live stream some of that dark web dumpster diving? Could I try to showcase it live and just have fun and explore discovery based? But I was like, no, that's way too risky. I don't know where we will land, and we'll never be able to have that review for NSFW or whatever just shows up online.
Yeah, no, it's safer not to. And I mean, people get frustrated by some of the content on YouTube, but there's a reason for it. And one of them is, we want to keep our channels.
The reason that I showcase Lockbit is because it has been just very recently in the news. You might be able to see a lot of their branding of Lockbit 3.0. There was some time ago, I think, was it September? Maybe years prior now, but the builder or the source code, the actual application and executable for the ransomware encryptor capability was out and about, out online on the internet. Now they're trying to end up putting together Lockbit 4.0, but they are what they consider part of ransomware as a service, or some of the models that you might understand from cybercrime, where they'll have other affiliates or other team members in a sort of decentralized way that will perform and do the ransomware operation, but still work with maybe initial access brokers or wholesale access markets where someone else has broken into an environment and then, hey, now a Lockbit affiliate or any others of ransomware will encrypt the file system, lock up the systems, and do the real damage. They are kind of wild, especially in a lot of the ransomware notes you might can see. They are oftentimes trying to recruit or ask for other folks helping out on that mission because it will make money, as evil and as wrong as it is. Well, I don't mean to be driving all over the place, but I am kind of having fun showcasing here and there what these things look like. Here's another onion URL for Akira. Akira Ransomware has been making some waves, if I may say, just because they do so much. They are pretty active, and oftentimes they don't have, not to say a code of conduct or a sportsmanship, but there are a lot of other actors beyond Leon, especially, and others that will go after or impact or have effects on places that really don't need to be messed with. I'm talking hospitals, I'm talking dentistry shops, I'm talking, police stations, schools, things where we think, oh no, the people there, the folks associated do not need that extra stress because that's already a critical life or death oftentimes environment. Then you lock up their computers, encrypt things. It's just really disheartening. So I don't by any means want to be emboldening or emblazoning, right, any of those threat actors, but I do think it's super duper important to make sure that folks are aware, to make sure they know and understand, like, this stuff happens, this stuff is real, and this is what it looks like. So Akira's cutesy.
Very cutesy.
Because they have their sort of hacker cool green matrix style, hey, green text on a black background, terminal looking website where you type in commands for the different pages you want to access. But you can see, they've got info on leaks, like the hacked companies, the organizations and businesses that they've breached. They also share their news, contact info, et cetera, and everything. And it takes a little bit of time to load because they have so much. As I was alluding to, they've done a whole lot. So I won't scroll through because I know, it's not something we can particularly show all that easily, being the victims. But look, if pixelated, obscured, redacted, I don't know, there's plenty there. I think it's so important to share the education for the layman, for the everyday individual, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. But I think for a lot of us that tend to do this work, like security practitioners that know and understand how this happens, how frequently it happens, we're a little, like, I don't want to say desensitized to it, but it is something that we just sort of roll off the shoulder. Like, well, oh yeah, another company got popped. Oh, Gravy Analytics, tracking location data. Okay, another. Thanks for bearing with me again on the Safari ride. Now we're moving to the next couple of courses in our, 4-course, 5-course meal here. But this one, I thought we could take a break, because I know we've been talking about some of the dark stuff, some grim cybercrime, but I think it's super duper important to showcase, look, the dark web, the onion sites there are their own culture. Because the whole reason of Tor and everything else was to have that privacy, that anonymity, everything all kind of in mind as you explore and use the internet. No part of that really goes away without using email. But wouldn't it be neat if there were a dark web or .onion anonymous and privacy focused email capability? So I'm not sure if folks are familiar with it, but you could see there is a darknet mail exchange, oftentimes literally called DNMX, and you could put together a online account, much like Gmail, like if you're used to working with Google Mail, but they also have their onion link. And there's nothing wrong with you being able to send back and forth emails either through the darknet addresses, like an onion URL, or even ClearNet sites, like send something to a Gmail address.
Gmail will accept emails from this.
Oh, yeah. Let's try and register an account. Fingers crossed. Let's just say Angry Raccoon. Password can be whatever we want. And let me cruise to the CAPTCHA here. Will that work? All right, account created. You may now log in as Angry Raccoon. Click login, fingers crossed. Take a look. We basically have our own email address, angryraccoon@dnmx.su, but we can access this through that onion URL that you might have seen up top and previously. And now we've got a little bit more privacy, and at least through Tor. And apology, I don't know how well we could show a lot of the advertisements, that tend to be here. Oftentimes those can be profane, vulgar, or illegal.
Yeah, it's something to be aware of, right? People forget that when you go on the dark web, you could, like you said earlier, you could see stuff that could get you into trouble.
And thank you for being willing to, explore this and take a look and let me showcase in the video here, because I know it's pretty tedious and annoying to have to clean some of that stuff up. But I think it does show, hey, for anyone that wants to explore, that would like to go tinker and go see what's out there, it does take a certain fortitude. You got to be able to stomach it here and there.
Yeah. John, I'm glad that you showed the email, because I don't think everyone's aware of that. I mean, going to some dodgy website, okay, that's a lot of people have seen that before, but it's nice to see the option for email as well.
Yeah, and thank you. I'd like to riff on this just a little bit more, because I think it's wild when we think on, whether it's hosting services and infrastructure. Folks might be familiar with, I don't know, whether it's hosting your Namecheap or GoDaddy or whatever. But hey, they also have what they call bulletproof hosting for those offering of cloud infrastructure and devices that they try to say, look, we're not going to be aware of what's there. So they are all in with the privacy and anonymity work as well. That, of course, fosters cybercrime and bad things when people do weird, wild things. But if we could keep tabs on those, we can keep track of them, then we know what they might be used for, or if they are being used. Alongside different things, I know folks chat about Malware VPN. I know folks chat about, hey, Jabber or Wix or other communication ways, all things that are probably worth adding to our arsenal as we're exploring more. But on that note, I know I was keeping it kind of fun, a little bit more whimsical when, look, if you are a real user of the dark web, like if you like to be part of that culture, looking at Dread, maybe the Reddit equivalent on the dark web, or interacting in a lot of these different forums or marketplaces, or if you host your own site, this was, I thought, kind of neat and maybe just kind of cool for us nerds that were interested. If you made a David Bombal onion site or a dark web domain, you could add ways to be able to pay for stuff that you sell. Or maybe just a chat message to communicate with the maintainers, the webmasters, or view counter, or all these things that, I don't know, build your own presence on the dark web.
So is this a company that's selling you like services, or selling you like software that you can add to your website?
Yeah, I'm thinking software you can add to your website. And I think this is more for good reasons, not strictly cybercrime, but I think that's neat to see, okay, if you consider yourself a citizen of the dark web, or you like to be in that culture and that ecosystem, don't forget, even for us that only perceive that dark web as that criminal underworld, no, I mean, still, it has its usage for privacy, anonymity, etc. And I think maybe this is an interesting testament to that.
I think a lot of us just view the dark web as exactly that. It's just dodgy, right? But I'm glad that you highlighted that if you want privacy, in some cases people really need that, then it's good to see that there's legitimate services for that.
All right. So that was our fun detour to, look at email and look at sort of website counter statistic widgets. But let's get back to more of the cybercrime or some of the shady dark web stuff. Now, I was alluding to either just the ransomware sites, either the FBI or law enforcement takedowns, but I mentioned, a lot of that is either coming from marketplaces or from forums, like bulletin board websites where folks chat. Now, there are a lot of these. Breach forums was one of them, of course. We see XSS was one example I think I showcased years past. Exploit.in is another big one. But a couple of these have some nuance because they're either pay to play, like you need to put forth Bitcoin to be able to get into that forum, or oftentimes you'll have some administrator or some higher up actually vet you and have you invited into the cool club like bouncer at the door. And there are, of course, some that are free or there's no gate or border to be able to enter. There is one that I did want to showcase, though. This is ramp4u.io. I believe they have both an Onion site and a clear text or a ClearNet domain. So you might be able to see this without the .onion Tor hidden services. This is one example where you are unable to get to any other page or work with or do particularly anything without having an account. And if you were to try and register or have an account, it'll tell you, oh, you need to be approved. You need to be vetted. You need to be invited by the Cool Kids Club. So with that said, I could try to log into any whatever random account that I would have attempted to stage and log in to be able to listen in, to be able to explore and see what's up. But hey, you're currently awaiting approval by an administrator. To verify your account, contact an administrator with any link, and they're chatting about some of the other forums that I just mentioned, like exploit.in or xss.is, and these are likely links to that individual user or a moderator or an administrator that will have the all holy righteous power to dub or decree you into this community or not. I think that is kind of an interesting thread, though, because it goes to show like reputation is so important and so critical inside of the dark web. For one thing, if hackers or cyber criminals are sharing breaches and, hey, dumping information and trying to show, look at this cool hack, well, they demonstrate they're not a Fed. They're not doing anything that law enforcement is using them as like a puppet or a double agent or spy. And that proves, quote unquote, some of their legitimacy. And if they use a handle or username or alias on moniker on one forum, well, they can act accordingly and use that on others. So folks know that is that individual still having anonymity and privacy in mind if it's just a hacker handle. Does that kind of make sense? Am I rambling?
No, that's great. I was just looking while you're talking. It says registration is $500. So is that if you haven't got a good reputation, then you can buy your way in, or do you still have to pay that if you've got a good reputation, so-called?
I think it's pay to play if you don't have any voucher or vouching from the administrators on another forum. Then buy your way in with whatever cryptocurrency.
Wow. Yeah, honor among thieves, right?
I don't think that's uncommon. I think exploit.in is very similar just as well. And for research, it's always a strange sort of matter of, can I find someone's account? Were they willing to gift it to me? Can I social engineer my way into the ecosystem to gain access? If I may, I know we mentioned Lockbit just a bit ago. I'm not sure if you know the name John DiMaggio,
yes.
But he is one individual researcher.
John, yeah.
Oh,
sorry,
heck yeah, incredible. He's a genius. John DiMaggio has done incredible work trying to social engineer and work his way into the Lockbit ransomware gang. And it's just mind-blowing, everything that he's been able to see, everything that he's been able to do. But I think that is part of the game here.
Yeah, he wrote a great book for Notestarch, and that's why I interviewed him. So,
excellent.
Yeah, great guy.
I ran into him at, I don't know if it was RSA or Black Hat one year, and we were just in shorts and sandals walking down the hallway. He's like, oh, hey, it's great to see you. But that's so cool. So I mentioned Ramp as one example, and I was alluding to a couple of these other forums as those pay to play, buy your way in. But there are a handful of other websites, CryptBB and some others, and your perception, anyone tuning in, may vary on is this a quote unquote legitimate forum? Are they doing actual adversary hacking, cyber criminal work, or is it a bunch of script kiddies or skids? And it's weird that perception or that is really, really pervasive through the entire ecosystem and culture, but it is. Folks will say, oh, he's LARPing. He's live action role playing. He's playing pretend that he's a cool hacker one way or another. And I'm sure I get that accusation 1,000 times over.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in cyber get that, especially if they're on YouTube or some public place. So
yeah, I guess I'm preaching to the choir right here with us, aren't we?
Yeah.
So this is Onniforums, one example. And I, truth be told, have gotten some of the members here very, very angry at me in the past. They were the ones that were, saying crazy, weird, wild names.
Badge of honor, man.
Yeah. But this is interesting because I think you get to see a lot of the mindset and philosophy for the forum owners, because if they're in the situation where people are angry about, others chatting about them online, when the administrators or forum moderators start to have the discussions like, we have eyes from people that we do not want, should we lock down or limit or gate registration? Just like that pay to play $500 USD or Bitcoin or whatever situation. But then they have that conversation. They say, no, we can't because we want still this to be accessible for other folks. But now that we are logged in, you get to see people going crazy, people doing weird stuff, people doing what they do. The shout box is just kind of oftentimes a functionality or a widget that a lot of different forums have to be able to actually communicate and like have an IM chat box with the entire forum. People tend to say some weird, crazy stuff in there, and oftentimes it's worthwhile to lurk and listen in and see what insight you can get, especially if there is one threat actor or cyber criminal that you're trying to do an investigation on and monitor all their actions. But if we were to take a look at the forum, the bulletin board, all the stuff that they showcase, look, you can see some of the weird, wild conversations that they're having there. Different sections on hacking, cracking, SIM swapping, phishing, social engineering, database breaches, et cetera, et cetera. There is one that I wanted to drill down into or sort of fall down the rabbit hole. Obviously, they have some malware developments. They have some stuff to build out their RATs, the remote access Trojans, their command and control framework, exploits, vulnerabilities, proof of concept, all this. But look, I think it's something that we could have some flashy fireworks here. If we're looking in the leak data sites, there is one account that seems to be repeatedly sharing some free info, free samples, like you're at Costco or whatever store to sell things at wholesale. And they keep just permutating, not to say permutating, but well, actually we can riff on that a little bit later. They keep spamming out info stealer logs every single day. Now, if folks aren't aware, info stealer malware are some of the like viruses and samples that when they infect your computer, they'll dig into and look at and try to carve out and extract your passwords, your credentials, your, address, payment information, your bank details, anything that you sort of saved or checked the box to let your browser cache and remember for you whenever you say, remember me or remember my details. And they could very well grab session cookies. Like as you're logged in, you don't even need a password or oftentimes multi-factor authentication, like that two-step verification that was in the way to make sure you are who you say you are. If they can get your cookies, they can bypass that. But that goes much further to even like your Discord tokens, your Telegram API keys, Telegram tokens, even Steam for a lot of the gamers and video game folks in the room. Anyway, New Daisy Cloud just seems to be screaming and shouting, sharing a bunch of these logs. Oftentimes they're shared in different Telegram sites, or oftentimes they can even be sold. Like, hey, you put a price tag on that, someone needs to pay Bitcoin. But New Daisy Cloud keeps putting these out completely for free with a download link and an archive password to be able to work with them. But take a look. They do note, hey, we upload logs to Telegram. You can see all their advertising and stuff that they do to make their own business in this. And that's what it is. Even if it's just free samples, there could always very well be an upsell for any other access or exclusive insight.
I think the problem is, John, you click on that link. You don't know if it's malware or if it's actually what they say it is.
Correct. Now, you might have noticed I am inside of a VM. I just hopped over to a virtual machine to make sure that, hey, we're going to be exploring and experimenting with a real file, like it's something we could download and experiment with. I don't want that on my host by any means at all.
And I would just say for anyone who's watching, John has got lots of experience with this. Please don't just go and do this yourself. Don't do this at home, as they say.
Thank you for adding that disclaimer because I am awful at forgetting to say that.
Yeah, no.
Probably
John,
a bad
you've got years and years of experience. You do this as part of your job. So, yeah, please don't try and do what John's doing.
Well, I did want to make it real. I did want to make it at least something that we could all experiment, see, and know what it looks like. So let's extract out the raw archive that would have been downloaded. Takes a little bit of time because, my goodness, that's just about 3 gigs compressed. It will prompt for the password here that we know was @new_daisy_cloud. We can extract that, and this will take a bit because, my goodness, there is a lot. And I just want to show you that fire hose flood. It makes this folder here, but this will continue to grow and grow as it keeps extracting all of the logs that were just willingly shared, put out online.
John, I think this is a warning for people who are technical to be aware of this, but also make sure that people who are not as technical as us are aware of this stuff, because I think even in 2025, a lot of people are totally unaware that this is going on all the time.
And there is no really barrier to entry. We went to that website with, Tor, whatever Onion site that we could have just downloaded the browser for. We got the link. We created an account that there was no wall or stumbling block or speed bump in the way. We found this post. We could download it, and that's that. This was not hard by any means. There isn't a wall or barrier to entry to cybercrime, truth be told.
Yeah, a lot of people say script kiddies and skids and whatnot, but that's the problem in the real world, right? A lot of people are able to steal this stuff and use ransomware without actually understanding what's going on because the tools are out there, right?
Absolutely. It has become extremely commoditized, but that is, I hope, why we can kind of shine the spotlight on it, showcase it, and bring it to the attention. With all that said, we've got more than enough that have pulled down now from that archive that we've extracted out. And it looks like these were all shared in perhaps Telegram or other sources and locations that were getting this data. I won't explore each and every one of them, but I did want to show you, what these things tend to look like. You can see all the folders that might have been created for applications that the malware is trying to survey and understand and see. They are installed on the victim computer. And then maybe web browsers that they use, like Brave that I mentioned, or Google Chrome, Firefox, and then we'll get to see cookies that it has extracted and pulled out from each. Microsoft Edge, Google accounts, Opera. A lot of this is oftentimes organized, and sometimes they might have a strange, randomly named file to hide and mask some other things that they'll still use for their own intelligence and insight. You can see down at the very bottom, looks like we're already counting up to maybe over 3,000 items and entries here in the Stealer logs. But I will say, I think it's absolutely necessary for me to add the disclaimer, or at least the note here. Hey, take this with a grain of salt. I cannot validate, I cannot personally guarantee or have any certainty that these are all real. But if I double click on all passwords, open this, you can see, here's that advertisement for New Daisy Cloud, looking at a user with the given username, email address, passwords, and a lot of their logins on different sites. We won't show a ton of this because I want to save David's editors, but I think the fact that this exists on its own is still a little bit scary. And if not all of it is real, I will say I think it's understandable business for a ill-intended threat actor or cyber criminal that will just sort of be a charlatan and spin or recycle some of these logs. It's, I think, not beyond me that, a good amount of this could very well be fake. That's not an idea that we're kicking off the table. But the only way that you know for sure is when you see your email address or your credentials or your information in a data breach. And this very well could be stuff that it comes from. So here's one example. We can open up the system file or just simple text file that tells us, look, on the computer that the malware and the info stealer ran on, it tells us the computer host name, like it's a desktop server, whatever you want to call it as you nickname your PC, the user that's logged in, maybe the antivirus solutions that you're running, actually getting the hardware ID, the amount of RAM, CPU that you're using, etc. You can see the IP address of the victim, and of course the time and country, kind of all the things here. They note this may very well be coming from Llama. Llama Stealer is a very well-known and I think running rampant info stealer malware out and about now. But again, a lot of the info can be just funneled, spat out on the internet. And you can see a lot of the Russian or Cyrillic language that kind of just clues you in, there be dragons. And the reason that I kind of harped on this info stealer segment of our showcase, I know for one thing, it's extremely important and really just paramount in our understanding of the whole cybercrime and dark web landscape. But I think it's especially topical and pertinent because this really cool tool, or at least resource, was just recently released by another community or online user, Fred HK. So please, credit where credit is due. I just want to give them a shout out and huge kudos and props. They put together a repository, some insight and info on GitHub, to identify different info stealer malware by the text file formats and logs included in different malware exfiltration. So if you have not seen this before, I think this is just a couple of days ago, at least the time recording. What is this stealer? Is a repository that has, for one thing, a reference for what all of the different kinds of info stealer logs could look like, even just like syntactically, the structure and format of all of those files that you saw in all of those folders. Different variations of asterisk and what that information.txt file might look like. Atomic Mac, maybe you know a different name that file often is called. Banshee is one example, blank grabber, etc., etc. This is in alphabetical order, but if I were to control F for llama, we might be able to see just sort of the same style. Here we go. Llama system.txt, that file you just saw me open, has this exact same sort of style, where there's a hyphen to start and then just a colon to denote all the different fields. But while this is just sample example text or data for the actual values, this lines up and matches everything that we just saw when we started to explore this. Now, I know you might be saying, okay, duh, yeah, like that's everything that we can see here. But if we were to try to make sense of this for every single one of these now almost 4,000 logs, sure, that's a cool tool and some sweet tricks for that threat intel, knowing how prolific, how much data, how much damage is being done by these info stealers, if we could process these all and kind of at least categorize them in mass. For the nerds and the geeks in the room, I think one of the coolest things about this tool or this repository is that they do offer the Yara rules. So if you wanted to, you could just run this with an engine to be able to auto-detect stuff based off of everything that you've seen. I thought it was a super cool resource, and I wanted to squeeze it in.
Nice.
All right. Well, if I may, that's kind of the end of the show there, David. That's everything I had at least kind of up my sleeve in the back pocket to bring to the table for you. But what do you think? I know we were a little all over the map, but I thought maybe that safari ride, maybe the showcase, our 5-course meal of dark web and cybercrime was still hopefully fun.
That was brilliant, John. I really appreciate you sharing. You have got all this experience and you do this stuff day to day. And it's nice that, being able to put it together in such an easy to understand way for us who perhaps don't do this every day. So thanks so much for sharing that. But John, I got to ask you this question because I know the audience, people are going to put comments about this. John, you're a Unix Linux guy. Why on earth are you using a Windows VM? Isn't that like the worst possible operating system to use?
Oh, I know. Someone's going to call me out on hey, You're not in whonix. You're not in Tails. Why aren't you doing all the OPSEC things? And yes, I agree. I acknowledge. I totally understand. In my mind, and I think maybe I'm wrong, someone can slap me upside the head here. When we are exploring the web-based end of, dark web things, we're using the Tor browser. That is just network connections through the .onion domains and the Tor hidden services. So as long as you're kind of through Tor, I'm okay with that. I don't think you absolutely 1,000% all the time guaranteed have to be in Tails or whonix. With the disclaimer, if you start to download files and do things locally and you don't know if that's malware, what it is, what artifacts might be there, gosh darn it, you should totally be Tails, whonix, or another VM. So I know you mentioned, John, you're in your Windows virtual machine. Well, if it is malware, I'd like to kind of tinker with it in the environment that it's intended to be ran in, or at least experiment, kind of debug, disassemble, play with. And also still acknowledging, look, if I can still just get the Tor browser up and running, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'll say disclaimer again, John, you know what you're doing here. It's okay for you to download ransomware and whatnot, but for most of us, probably not a very good idea.
Can I play with that? Because thank you. Without a doubt, I will say that I am still learning too. And I like to think, I'm a little bit more seasoned. I've got some experience, but I'm not going to put it past me to say, oh, I can't get hacked, or, oh, I know what I'm doing and therefore I can operate with risk or whatever. Let me say straight up, no, I'm sure, I could very well be compromised. I could be breached. I can run malware on accident, and I could fall for it. I'll get hacked one day. And when that day comes, hey, kind of just as I mentioned, we not to say desensitized to it, but we roll off the shoulder and we say like, well, crap, now I need to get better, learn from that. But I don't want to say, oh, I'm not going to get hacked. Not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, as we say.
No, I'm so glad that you said that, because I think that's the difference between someone like you, who's a professional, who's been doing this for a long time, and someone who's been in the game just a short time. I see it so many times in comments like, you're not good because, someone like me is better. I'm not going to get hacked. I mean, that's putting yourself up for failure. It can happen to all of us, or any of us.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So John, I got to nail you some more, right? You have mentioned Tails. You've mentioned whonix, Brave. So if I just want to have a quick look, am I safe using Brave, or would you recommend a VM like you've got here, or would you recommend Tails, whonix? People always have, it becomes like a religious debate about like what's the best, but like sort of what's your guidelines just for someone perhaps who's starting, someone who's more seasoned?
Thank you. As someone who is getting started, or at least the very first time you're starting to play with this and you want to explore, please, 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 I would ask that you do it right. Do everything that either we've showcased in previous video, you've showcased in other videos, or others have gotten into Tails or whonix and going through a full virtual machine before you, just download the Tor browser on Windows. I think you should know these are the stopgaps. These are the things. These are the guardrails you can add to make yourself safe. And if I may, again, not to kind of toot our own horn for the just hacking training work, but we have other folks that are teaching operational security and opsec, even for us, for security practitioners, for the folks that want to do this work day in and day out. You got to keep yourself safe first. And if we can cut corners just because we're feeling, smart, okay, sometimes, sure, but know that you are walking a tightrope here and again.
So I mean, if I was starting, whonix would be a good one to start with because it's easy, it's VMs, right?
I would agree, yes. I think whonix would be the best virtual machine way to go. That gets a little bit nuanced because you have like two different, there's a gateway and there's a workstation. I think you've showcased in your video. And that can be a little bit confusing for folks, but it's still good to do. Tails, as I know a whole lot of other folks will opt for, is sort of intended to be run on like a USB drive or a flash drive. So it's super portable and has amnesia, and that it will never save or write any info to that file system and disk itself. It's always a fresh, clean slate every time you boot it up if you boot from a USB.
John, I got to ask you like sort of a controversial question that comes up in the comments. Do I use Tor over a VPN, or do I just use like whonix just as it is?
Okay. Thank you. Great question. And I'm going to jump into it, and then people can give me flack and help me add the context understanding. The answer to that question, should we use a VPN while you use Tor, is simply no, because it defeats the purpose of using Tor in the first place. Tor is meant to be that onion router where you have packets that will move through routers to nodes and endpoints to bundle up or unravel and unpeel where the next destination is. So that's why you hear people talking about, an exit node or an entrance node, all the things that it works through. When you use a VPN, you are just changing what will end up becoming your exit node, as in the last router or server that it hits before the intended destination. If that's not super confusing, I'm sorry, I know saying it out loud, but you are just hitting yourself at the knees if you use a VPN while using Tor. Tor is already doing everything that it needs to do for you. Stick with Tor.
No, that's great. I mean, so advice would be, if you want to go down this journey, be aware of the risks. But a good way to start is whonix. So download whonix, run it within virtualization software on your computer, and be aware of what you're getting yourself into. Is that kind of a good way to start?
Absolutely. I would absolutely add the disclaimer. Yeah, you got to have a strong stomach and good fortitude, but it's good to do.
So John, you got to show us your website. It's not a dodgy website like you've been showing us already, but show us this good website. and show us kind of the stuff that you guys are getting up to.
Yeah, thank you so much. So look, this is justhacking.com. The flagship kind of offering thing that we want to bring to the table here is Just Hacking Training. And as I mentioned, that is sort of our schoolhouse curriculum, courses, training academy, whatever you want to call it. But the usual courses and paths, maybe some upskill challenges or hack-alongs. And even if folks were really big into the capture the flag, like hands-on practical war games and exercises that I've hosted and we've done in the past, we do have a whole archive of previous CTF events, like from the NomCon competition or different other games that we've hosted. I am ecstatic, though, because it's not just me anymore. I've tried to really make the YouTube channel a labor of love, where I'm trying to share and spread the word on free, accessible cybersecurity education. But I do want to make sure that other folks can get involved, flex, and show off their skills. But I also want to make sure that it's valuable and worthwhile for them. So we have an incredible all-star lineup of really cool people in the industry, help trying to raise awareness. Rising tide raises all boats.
Yeah, I want to thank you for inviting me. It's great to see my name amongst all those amazing people. So I appreciate it, man.
Did we get you in here? Are you here already?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's great to see Jason, obviously yourself, Katie, bunch of good names in there. So really glad to see that you put this together, John.
Thank you. It's funny, even just speaking as John, if I can get introspective for a quick second, it's very fulfilling and humbling and heartwarming to realize, look, this is the collaboration and great contributing work from other people. So it's just always, for me, extreme gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation for folks being willing to be a part of it and see it how it goes. Try it out. But I hope it's a good mission, and I'm so happy folks are a part of it.
John, I got to throw you a hard question. What does this cost? Because it looks good, and it's you, man. And I advise anyone to learn from you. I'm so glad that you've put courses together, because I think this is something that you should have done years ago. So really glad that you've done this. But what's the pricing like on this stuff?
Thank you. No, I am grateful that you asked, because I know the inevitable question. A lot of this and everything that we absolutely can is, I hope, to be accessible and affordable within reason for getting the right value, striking the balance. So the dark web and cybercrime investigations course, kind of what we've been alluding to right now, is $100, $100. We got a 20% off for the launch kind of celebration that we're releasing this thing. I don't know if we'll ever be that 125, but I hope for David's folks, anyone tuning in, we can keep that at that good round and comfortable price for you.
I appreciate it. And that's not a subscription, right? That's a once-off.
Correct. Everything is lifetime access. You'll buy the course, you'll have the material forever, and there's no subscription or monthly renewal thing, blah, 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 any of that crap. We want to make sure that you get to learn and get into the environment.
John, that's brilliant, man. Again, for everyone who's watching, I've known John for a while, quite a while actually, and John is so respected in the industry. John, are you going to be at DEF CON Black Hat somewhere where people can meet you in person?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Thanks so much. I'll be hitting the usual big three. I think we'll do DEF CON, we'll do Black Hat, we'll do RSA, and then, a couple of other conferences here and there throughout the year. So looking forward to an exciting 2025.
John, for people who haven't seen your content before, can you put up your YouTube channel? Tell us what you're getting up to on your YouTube channel.
Of course. Thank you so much. Yeah. Look, you can find me online. You can find me on the internet. I basically feel like I'm kind of a walking docs. It's my name. It's my face. You got the red hair. You could find me, pick me out in a crowd pretty easily. But on YouTube, just to handle John Hammond, look, I am trying my darndest to help share a lot of cybersecurity education in a lot of different directions. I've had a lot of fun with this over time. I think it's really been years, like a decade, maybe a decade and a half now, kind of wild. Whether it's, starting with that programming tutorials, writing code, scripting languages, etc., to capture the flag, to playing with vulnerabilities and exploits, and then learning a little bit more about, what does that mean for real security with those cybercrime actors, with actual threat actors, the dark web, of course, and then understanding some more of their malware. We've even got to experiment and play with what would be some video game hacking. We've got to play with Cheat Engine a little bit, and a whole nother new direction that I'm very excited about so far has been that scam bait work, trying to do some work combating scammers. And that is an incredible mission and really cool to put cybersecurity to a very fruitful and important mission.
John, I want to highlight over 1,500 videos you've posted. Man, you've been busy.
Yeah, thank you. Like I try to really pride myself on like, hey, what I can showcase and bring is pure play cybersecurity. Or I know it's across the whole gamut. There are a whole lot of different things that we could do, tinker with and experiment, but that's what it is. It's just kind of playing. It's experimenting and poking and playing. And having that stockpile over time, I think has a lot of meaning for me. I'm very pleased and proud of like, hey, there's no fluff. Let's do it. Let's show you what this thing looks like. Let's get hands on keyboard and hey, do a demo.
Yeah, John, I want to thank you for being an inspiration for so many people. You know, I see so many comments about you. People admire your work. You're very well respected. Thanks so much for coming on the channel and sharing, a bit with me and my audience. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, David. It's been a long time since we got a chance to get together, but my goodness, I'm so happy to see you and spend some time with you.
John, hopefully we can get you back soon, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, David.